very first Little Caesars pizza joint opened by the Illiches in Garden City is going to close down.
Before you grab that next slice of Little Caesars, you might want to rethink your decision. Stick around as we dive into the hidden truths about this popular pizza chain that could make you think twice before your next order. When it comes to Little Caesars stuffed crust pepperoni specialty pizza, the numbers speak louder than any catchy jingle. This pizza, which might be popular for its convenience and taste, carries some hefty nutritional figures that are hard to ignore. One large pie from this chain clocks in at roughly 2,980 calories and 70 grams of saturated fat. To put that into perspective, imagine that one pizza is sneaking in more energy than an entire day's worth of calories for many adults. Consider the daily calorie recommendations. Most adults are advised to consume between 2,000 and 2,500 calories. That means a single large pizza from Little Caesars can cover or even exceed the full day's caloric needs. It's as if the pizza is saying, "Why have a balanced meal when you can go all out in one go?" The numbers are straightforward. When nearly 3,000 calories are crammed into one pie, it leaves little room for healthy nutrition during the rest of the day. The situation becomes even more interesting when the focus shifts to saturated fat. Nutrition guidelines generally recommend that saturated fat make up less than 10% of total daily calories. For a standard 2,000-calorie diet, that works out to about 20 grams of saturated fat per day. Here, Little Caesars specialty pizza delivers 70 grams, more than 3 times the recommended amount. This isn't just a minor overshoot. It's like using a fire hose to water a small garden. There is simply too much of a good, or rather, not so good, thing. The classification of this pizza as calorie-dense is an understatement. Foods with high calorie density provide a massive amount of energy relative to their weight, often at the expense of essential nutrients. In this case, the high saturated fat content is a red flag for heart health. Saturated fats have been linked to increased levels of LDL cholesterol, commonly known as bad cholesterol, which can contribute to the development of heart disease over time. It might be tempting to brush off the excessive calorie and fat content with a light-hearted quip, but the facts are clear. Each slice is like adding another hefty deposit to an already overburdened bank account of calories, where interest is paid in the form of potential weight gain and cardiovascular risks. Instead of a balanced nutritional portfolio, the pizza brings a one-sided investment that leans heavily toward short-term indulgence with long-term consequences. In the realm of fast food, high-calorie and high-saturated fat meals are not uncommon. However, the stark numbers associated with Little Caesars pizza provide a sharp example of how these indulgences can quickly accumulate. When the average consumer might not be tracking every calorie and gram of fat, the casual consumption of such a pizza could contribute to a gradual imbalance. The impact is not just immediate. It's a cumulative effect that can lead to issues like obesity and heart-related conditions if high-calorie, high-fat meals become a regular habit. The analysis becomes even more compelling when these nutritional figures are compared to other meal options. For instance, while many fast food chains offer items in similar caloric ranges, the saturated fat content of the stuffed crust pepperoni specialty pizza is notably higher than what many nutrition experts would recommend for a single meal. This high level of saturated fat, when consumed on a regular basis, might accelerate the risk of arterial plaque buildup, heightening the possibility of cardiovascular incidents. Adding a touch of humor to these facts does little to soften their seriousness. Imagine the body's arteries as quiet highways. Now, insert 70 grams of saturated fat into one meal, and it's like a stampede of unnecessary traffic that clogs the lanes. While the humor might elicit a smirk, the underlying facts remain. Such nutritional overload is far from what nutritionists would endorse. Little Caesars pizza isn't just a name on a box. It's a recipe for chemical mischief. The dough they use packs in calcium propionate, a preservative that has stirred up a storm of concern. Studies have hinted that this additive might be linked to hyperactivity in children, a worrying possibility for parents who already feel like they're on a never-ending roller coaster ride with their kids. While you might think, hey, it keeps the dough fresher, the fact is that freshness comes at a cost. Chemical additives that could be affecting our little ones in ways we don't fully understand. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Calcium propionate is a synthetic compound used by many fast food chains to keep products from spoiling too quickly. In Little Caesars dough, it helps extend shelf life, meaning you can pick up a hot, ready-to-eat pizza without worry about mold, at least from a food safety perspective. But here's where it gets a bit unsettling. Several research studies have raised questions about how such additives impact behavior, especially in kids. It turns out that some scientists have linked additives like calcium propionate to hyperactivity, a side effect that sounds more like a scene from a zany cartoon than a dinner table conversation. Imagine biting into what seems like a classic comfort food, only to have it trigger a mini internal rave that leaves kids bouncing off the walls. No one wants their favorite pizza to end up as the unwanted catalyst for unruly energy bursts. Some studies suggest that certain preservatives might nudge children toward hyperactivity, though the results aren't set in stone. However, when you weigh the benefits of having a pizza that lasts a little longer against the possibility of stirring up extra energy in your youngsters, the scales start tipping in the wrong direction. After all, calcium propionate isn't the kind of ingredient you'd expect to find in a wholesome, home-cooked meal. The numbers paint an even grimmer picture. Research into food additives and children's behavior doesn't give us neat, comforting figures, but the associations are enough to raise eyebrows. In some cases, researchers have observed that even small amounts of preservatives like calcium propionate can lead to behavioral changes, especially in susceptible individuals. Picture a classroom where a child who has had too much of this preservative starts to blur between playtime and a hyper-energetic sprint. It sounds almost too absurd to believe, yet it's a concern that has been echoed in various food safety discussions and studies over the years. From a nutritional point of view, it's frustrating to think that something as simple as a pizza dough can be laced with chemicals that might have unexpected consequences. You're not just eating a mix of flour, water, and yeast. You're also ingesting a cocktail of additives designed to extend shelf life, but which might also be affecting your health in less than desirable ways. For parents especially, this is no laughing matter. After all, no one wants to be the guy who unwittingly fuels the next generation of hyperactive kiddos with every slice of pizza served at the family dinner table. It's curious how something that sounds as ordinary as calcium propionate can end up being a source of major concern when it lands on your plate. We talk about junk food and its effects on the body every day, but here's a concrete example of a food additive that has real-life implications. Think about it. In a world where every ingredient is scrutinized, the presence of a chemical that might trigger hyperactivity is enough to make you rethink what you're putting into your body, and into your kids' bodies as well. If you're watching your salt intake, Little Caesars pies might give you a bit of a heart flicker. Picture this. You're sitting down with a slice of pepperoni pizza, and while you're busy enjoying that cheesy goodness, you might not realize you're also biting into about 570 milligrams of sodium. Now, that might not sound too alarming at first, but try stacking up a few slices on your plate, and you're quickly flirting with the upper bounds of what many nutrition experts call a safe sodium intake. For context, the daily recommended limit for sodium is around 2,300 milligrams for the average adult. That means just 4 slices of this pepperoni delight could push you to nearly 2,280 milligrams. And if you're one of those who can't resist going back for a 5th slice or two, well, it's like hosting a sodium party in your body, a party that your heart might want to leave early. It's a bit like trying to cram an entire football team into a compact car. Things get overcrowded, and a little out of control. Let's break it down a bit further. Imagine you start your day with Little Caesars, thinking you're just indulging in a treat. With each slice clocking in at that 570 milligram mark, 2 slices land you at 1,140 milligrams of sodium, a sneaky amount that fills up more than half of what you should ideally have for the whole day. Now, toss another slice onto the plate, and boom! You're over the 1,700 milligram mark, edging ever closer to the limit before lunch. It's as if the pizza is whispering, "One more. Come on, live a little." Even if your arteries might be screaming in protest later on. It's not just about the numbers on the label. Excessive sodium consumption is linked to a host of health challenges. High salt intake is known to contribute to high blood pressure, which in turn can lead to more serious conditions like heart disease and strokes. While enjoying a slice now and then isn't the end of the world, making it a habit might turn that cheerful pizzeria visit into a ticking time bomb for your cardiovascular system. Your doctor might even start eyeing you suspiciously when you mention Little Caesars, as if to say, "Are you trying to turn your arteries into pretzel sticks?" One could also argue that the sodium level in each slice is like a hidden fee. You get the pizza, but you also pay the price with extra salt. And unlike taxes or subscription fees, there's no way to opt out of this surcharge once you've taken your first bite. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. On one side, you get the unbeatable convenience and cost-effectiveness of Little Caesars, and on the other, you're navigating the murky waters of nutritional compromises. Let's talk about that tiny plastic cup of butter garlic flavor sauce from Little Caesars, the one that looks innocent sitting next to your crazy bread. Harmless, right? Not quite. That little cup is a sugar-laced, fat-drenched trap, and it's not even trying to hide it. At 370 calories and 42 grams of fat per container, it has all the subtlety of a deep-fried brick. Here's the kicker. This is just the dipping sauce. Not the pizza, not the breadsticks, just the sauce. And while you'd think a garlic-flavored sauce would be a savory kind of sidekick, this one brings along a surprising hit of sugar and a whole lot of empty fat. Think of it like the greasy cousin who shows up uninvited to your cheat meal and overstays his welcome. Now, 42 grams of fat is nearly 2/3 of the daily recommended limit for most adults. Let that sink in. One dip, and you're almost there. And we're not even talking about the good fats, like the kind you'd get from an avocado or some almonds. No, this is the kind of fat that likes to take long, luxurious naps in your arteries. The sauce also gives you 370 calories, which is more than a slice of most of their pizzas. That's right. Dipping the pizza in the sauce adds more calories than the pizza itself. It's like ordering a diet soda with a triple bacon cheeseburger and pretending that somehow balances out. But wait, how about nutritional benefits? Are we getting anything in return for this glistening cup of oil and sugar? Not really. There's no protein to speak of. No vitamins waving hello. Just a lot of fat, some sodium, and the vague flavor of butter and garlic. It's basically liquid regret. And here's something that might make you raise an eyebrow. Many people don't just stop at 1 cup. If you're the type to double dip or triple dip, let's be honest, those numbers climb fast. 2 cups? You're looking at 740 calories and 84 grams of fat. That's more than a Big Mac and fries, just in dipping sauce. Of course, Little Caesars isn't the only place adding sneaky sugars to sauces, but their butter garlic flavor sauce deserves a special mention just for how misleading it is. You expect sugary overload in desserts, not in something that's supposed to taste like garlic. The sweetness isn't even clearly advertised, which makes it even more of a surprise attack on your health. And yes, it's technically garlic-flavored, not actual garlic. You won't find any fresh cloves floating around in there, just a blend of oils, artificial flavors, and enough preservatives to embalm a side of beef. It's less a real sauce and more of a food science experiment that somehow made it onto your plate. What's wild is how normalized it's become to dip every bite into this stuff. The whole idea of a dipping sauce used to be a little bonus on the side. Now, it's a necessity. almost like the bread feels naked without it. But the trade-off is brutal. Each casual dip is basically a mini crime against your arteries. And for those watching their sugar intake, surprise, this garlic-flavored lube has sugar in it. The label won't make a big fuss about it, but if you're diabetic or even just trying to dodge unnecessary sugar, this sauce is the enemy in disguise. Sugar in a garlic butter sauce shouldn't even be a thing, but here we are. Little Caesar's chicken wings are a real head-scratcher when it comes to meeting even the basic expectations of wing lovers. It all starts with the size. If you squint just right, you'll find that these wings are about as satisfying as a stubby branch rather than a proper wing. Reviews and online surveys reveal that nearly 70% of customers have been left disappointed by what they call miniature lackluster wings. Imagine biting into something that promises crunch and a burst of flavor, only to be met with disappointment the size of a toy. This is the everyday reality for many. The texture is where the real letdown begins. Instead of the satisfying crispiness that a well-cooked chicken wing should deliver, these wings are often described as soggy. The skin, which should ideally be light, crisp, and slightly salty, ends up being more reminiscent of a damp paper towel left out in the rain. In one popular food forum thread, over half of the comments noted that the wings felt like they had been dipped repeatedly in water, losing any potential to deliver the crunch that so many of us crave. Flavor is another area where Little Caesar's wings fall remarkably short. One might expect a burst of well-seasoned delight, but what many reviewers have in common is the remark that the wings taste bland, almost as if they've forgotten to invite any spices to the party. Some reviewers have even noted that the flavor is so underwhelming, it's as if the wings took a vacation from the very concept of taste. In fact, a small survey published on a niche restaurant critique site mentioned that more than 60% of respondents rated the flavor of these wings as barely there or dull, leaving them wanting the kind of zest that other wings deliver with every bite. When it comes to crunch, Little Caesar's wings could take a lesson from soggy cereal. There's an undeniable gap between what customers expect from a wing and what they actually get. Proper wings should offer a crunchy exterior that gives way to juicy meat inside. Instead, these wings often feel as if they've been introduced to the oil fryer and then quickly shoved aside, leaving them limp. The dissatisfaction is so common that there's even a running joke online comparing Little Caesar's wings to chewed-up rubber balloons. A humorous remark that, while making light of the situation, underscores just how serious the texture issue seems to be. Beyond taste and texture, the overall quality of the wings is lacking in a way that hints at a rushed production process. It's almost as if in the hustle to deliver hot pizzas quickly, the chicken wings were treated as a side thought, neglected in time and care. One could argue that when a restaurant's reputation hinges on offering a complete dining experience, every item should be given the same attention to detail. Unfortunately, these wings seem to have been skipped over, resulting in an unbalanced menu where the star is not nearly as shiny as it should be. Numbers keep piling up against these lackluster wings. Multiple online reviews and customer polls frequently bring up figures that show satisfaction ratings for Little Caesar's chicken wings, hovering in the low 40s out of 100. That's a statistic that hardly speaks of culinary achievement. When 60% or more of your customer base is clearly unimpressed, it's a sign something isn't quite right in the wing department. And it's not just one or two isolated comments. The trend is consistent enough to be a noted shortcoming among regular customers and wing aficionados alike. What's even more laughable is that these wings are sometimes compared to offerings from competitors who pride themselves on the perfect balance of crispy skin and hearty meat. While rivals can boast about wings that have been carefully prepared and seasoned to perfection, Little Caesar's offering falls flat, literally and figuratively. In fact, some food critics have gone as far as to say that if wings were a student, these would be the ones who barely managed to pass the class of Crispy and Tasty 101. For those who prefer their chicken wings as the highlight of their meal, this dish from Little Caesar's might leave them scratching their heads and checking their watches, waiting impatiently for that expected crunch which never comes. In many humorous online reviews, customers have shared hilarious comparisons, likening the wings to deflated party favors rather than the lively, energetic snack they anticipated. Little Caesars offers some questionable menu planning that leaves many customers scratching their heads. Inconsistent menu availability is a real buzzkill, especially when one gets excited about something delicious like the stuffed crazy crust. The idea of a cheesy, decadent crust sounds heavenly, but it's often available only for a limited time. Imagine planning your dinner around that indulgent treat only to discover that your local branch has already switched it off. It leaves you feeling like you've missed the winning lottery ticket, while the promise of indulgence fizzles out like a flat soda. Countless fans have taken to social media and review sites to share their frustration. One survey even noted that roughly 60% of disappointed customers mentioned their dismay over the sporadic availability of this cherished item. With over 15 million pizzas sold annually, one would expect a consistent menu to keep loyal patrons happy. Instead, the erratic appearance of the stuffed crazy crust seems more like a roller coaster ride, complete with unexpected drops and turns that leave customers dizzy and decidedly dissatisfied. The marketing strategy behind these limited-time offerings is puzzling at best. The practice of promoting a fan-favorite item as an exclusive, limited-edition treat might sound exciting, but it quickly turns sour when the buzz wears off. When you hear that the stuffed crazy crust is available this week only, you quickly rush to your local store, only to be met with closed doors or a completely different menu. Sales numbers tell the tale. During promotional periods, some regions see a spike in orders by around 10%, but this surge is often followed by a 15% drop once the item is pulled, as customers turn away in frustration. This sporadic strategy not only affects sales, but also dents the reputation of a brand that once prided itself on affordability and reliability. Regular customers begin to doubt whether every location carries the same offerings, creating a sense of uncertainty that quickly grows into annoyance. It's like waiting for a bus that never seems to arrive on time. You get stuck in limbo, wondering if this is just another one of those clever tricks that leaves you high and dry. The inconsistency may even lead customers to re-examine their loyalty. When your favorite indulgence is available only when the stars align, your excitement turns into cynicism. The promise of the stuffed crazy crust becomes a moving target, a reward that's always out of reach. It's a frustrating cycle, where anticipation builds only to be dashed repeatedly, leaving you to wonder if the quest for a satisfying pizza experience is even worth the effort.